A revolution is bloody. Revolution is hostile. Revolution knows no compromise. Revolution overturns and destroys everything that gets in its
said we have 130 people, but was only expecting 60.
Things that I want to go over is just because of the decision-making process, and I want to make sure everybody has their voice in this. How do we want to come to a decision? Do we want to do like a majority rule thing, or do we want to come to consensus some other way?
Majority rule.
Yeah. Why? Why?
Morning. Stand up and speak up.
Consensus means that we all agree. It's important that we all agree because we are all together in this. We're the 99%. If we don't agree, if we're arguing amongst ourselves, then we're not going to get this done. It's not going to work.
Good point.
We have to be able to agree on certain things. Yes, it will take more time. But if we just do a majority vote, and 51% of the people want to do this, and the other 49% has been disenfranchised. Hasn't that been happening to us since the beginning?
Yeah.
That's really all I have to say about that. I think consensus is very important, and I know it will take a long time, but I'm willing to put in that time. Are you?
Yeah.
Hey! We have consensus on that.
I think a lot of that is looking for consensus for broad aspects of this movement. Nonetheless, I think we need to realize that much like a tree, you have broad coverage, yet you have a lot of individual needs, which means some of us are going to have to relinquish a little bit of ground to come to the broader goal.
Right.
So, you know what, one of the things in talking to people about this is they want to
Use
keep
the mic, please.
into one political ideology or another, yet really, you know, this is all about disaffectation. This is about disaffectation, you know, over sense of having lost our power as people. Oh, thank you very much. I love the microphone. Let me go back. This is, you can make a metaphor for consensus as a tree. That a tree gives us all broad coverage. We are stronger together. Yet we are all leaves too, and we might be shaped a little different. We might hold different ideas, but the overarching goal here is this sense of personhood, again, becoming important in the United States instead of just tax code deals for corporations. Coming back to that compact where labor and business work together and value. So we may have to give a little ground in getting to our overall consensus, and I think was that what you were talking about a moment ago?
I've just seen beautiful things come together when two people.
Let me pass this off to you.
Beautiful things happening when two people that may seem to have diametrically opposing viewpoints can come together and really try and understand each other and create something new, and usually better than either one of their diametrically opposed viewpoints.
and has forced us into the circumstances that we face today is by factualizing us. And I see the Canaan contingent agrees with that. And if we instead operate by consensus, we avoid that factionalization. In other words, bottom line, if we operate on the basis of a simple majority, we are serving the 1% by dividing ourselves. Whereas if we operate on the basis of consensus, we are serving ourselves, we the people.
I'm in favor of consensus with one little piece that I think we should work out. In classic consensus, one person can block. And I heard in some of the live streaming from Occupy Wall Street that they've got a hybrid, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like if somebody wants to block, then there could be something like a 90 or 95% kind of a vote. I'm not exactly sure how it went, but I think that it would be good for us if we decide on consensus to explore that one piece so that we don't get into some ridiculous scrapes.
If under pure consensus, one person can block the vote, then all can do it like that.
And speaking to that directly, a possibility that we could use, instead of creating a situation where we have a 95% or 99% voting block for majority, we're still alienating a small group of people. What we could do is, if we can't come to consensus on something, whatever we didn't come to consensus on doesn't have to be mandatory or entirely endorsed or entirely official. We can have things that have degrees of officiality or degrees of acceptance, where if a very large number of people want to do a certain thing, but not everyone wants to do it, the people who don't want to do it don't have to, but they won't be excluded from the movement for not complying. That's just one way to do it. It's my idea, and I think it's a good one, but we should reach consensus on it.
I was just going to say we do need to have some type of, if there's a block, some sort of percentage where we're going to go ahead with whatever action is. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of visitors coming in and blocking just so we don't do anything.
Okay, let's do 3 more.
I agree with this kind of words of wisdom because sadly in a society like the one we live in, a very diverse society, it's very hard to reach a consensus view en masse. There has to be some point in which the majority may take effect in the issue. I mean, we are run by a country where the majority rule tends to have the final say, but we may just be able to do it better than how the officials go about it. We may be able to actually hold that American value of having a democratic voting system and actually do it correctly in a very fair way, very democratic way.
Yeah.
Very briefly, groups that I've worked with that work with consensus ask that if you feel you need to block consensus, that it's not because your particular idea didn't get the majority support or the close to consensus support, but if you feel it is dangerous for our movement, that it will derail our movement, that it will seriously harm our movement, then block consensus. And then if anyone wants to block consensus, in our groups at least, everything would stop. That person would present why they were blocking, and we would consider that. Because as Dean pointed out, you can have very far apart positions, but if you listen to what's behind why they're blocking, you may find that they are absolutely right and we were missing something. Many people who have blocked have saved us from going off the cliff.
My name's Joe. We are the people, and what this comes down to selflessness. And any personal agendas that you may have as far as pushing selfishness needs to be put aside, because this will not work unless you come from it or at it from a selfless angle. And I think that is going to be one of the most important things that keeps this going forward, is that type of attitude about it.
Talked with a lot of teabaggers, and I find out that if you get past the moronic ideology, they have exactly the same grievances we do, which is relevant because if our purpose is to grow this group, then that is yet another argument in favor of consensus. One last thing, I have seen consensus groups evolve out of mass meetings by the mass meeting dividing into small subgroups, half a dozen people, each discussing a topic. This is actually a technique used by facilitators, and it might be very useful.
And so far, the first 10 minutes should have covered that. Friday's action should have been covered in the first 10 minutes. And then the formation of needed working groups and the mission statement. The mission statement wasn't brought up till well into this program. And I'm going to be real direct about how I feel. Right now, I do not want to be a part of this group because we can't even follow an agenda. It really bothers me. I will watch you online, I will watch you in the newspaper. There seems to be too big of a hurry to get out there and see how fast we can get arrested and make a scene. That's not what I'm about. That's not what's going to impress the community. I'll guarantee you. Maybe it's all fun and games to be all eager to camp out and have the police call you over. But I'll trust you in the normal mentality of our society. That doesn't.
Hi, my name is Jane, and I'm a concerned senior citizen. Democracy is really messy.
Yeah, boy. Not easy.
It's also time consuming. I mean, let's face it, dictatorship is much more efficient. Last time I took to the streets was during Vietnam. But I'm reminded that every single movement in this country's history that has had the objective of social justice has been characterized by two very diverse groups of people. Same goal, but very different methods of achieving it. The one group was what some of us would call the radical fringe. These were the far out right, or left, the far out leftists. But these were also the people that called attention. These were the people that got the media, the press, some good, some bad, but the point is they got attention. These were the folks that went out into the streets, broke the laws, got themselves arrested, and went to jail. And I think every movement needs those kind of people.
Yeah.
But there was also the other group. These were the people who worked quietly and efficiently within our existing political process, who managed to change the laws and brought about permanent change by
A little bit of both.
I think if this movement is going to succeed, if it can even call itself a movement, we are going to need the services of both